Hello out there. Good morning or afternoon. I see we have a nice crowd forming. We have a fun topic today. We're going to be talking about that influencer grind.
The influencer grind. This episode is not for you if you're a really famous Instagrammer.
It might be for you. We're not.
But
no, if you're a famous Instagrammer, we also love you, like everybody.
that's right. But particularly, just let me know when to start.
Oh, I gotcha. Tracks and relax. Good afternoon to you. If you guys can hear us okay, you can give us a big thumbs up. I see we do have a nice group forming here. We're going to jump in just a second. Just want to make sure everything is looking good. I think I've been thinking a lot about, for the past several years, around the internet and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I just don't know anymore.
I don't know anymore either. We got an email this morning. We're often mistaken for influencers.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess we kind of are. We have this lovely Montessori Power Hour show, and I technically am on Instagram, and we have a Facebook account and all the things, right? But we've never considered ourselves influencers. And I think that's because the Montessori influencing space is complicated. You know, it's not about the number of followers one has. It's more about, I think your willingness to show up and sometimes work with brands. And, and so when we get those emails, every time it says, we love the influencing work you're doing in the Montessori community. I'm like, what? That's not me. I just nerd out about it. And so there's nothing wrong with working with brands and having a mega following. Sure. Kudos to you. But I think that because there is a presence of Montessori influencers out there working with brands who are curating their homes, and I know many of them who are wonderful people, but because this exists and this is what we see Montessori being represented as, it gives us the impression that we all need to have homes that look like this.
Yeah, totally.
And and some of us do have homes that look, we've taken the time to really work on the decor, and maybe this is just an important part of who we are, is curating our personal space at home.
Yeah.
And that's great, and we love it. But you don't have to have that, and especially not right away when you're learning the Montessori method in order to apply the Montessori method at home.
Totally right. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. Tedley, I want to say I saw your Born to Be Wild. That was great seeing old Teddy on the motorcycle. You always come up with such interesting ideas. I can't wait to see where Teddy goes next. Where will he go next? All right. Well, let's jump into it. Your comments, as always, are welcome, and appreciate you being with us live.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful.
Ready?
Sure. I thought we were already in it.
Now we're going to do the real thing now.
Okay. Now we're really starting. Friends, you do not have to have the most Instagram-worthy home or curated Montessori space in order to have a fantastic nurturing environment for your child and to be able to do Montessori authentically.
That's right. It's, if you've ever been on the internet, I suspect you have. If you're with us today, it's the only way you can reach us. Maybe you've been on something called Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest or any of the myriad others that have come or will come again. It seems like you just can't escape all of those images of a lifestyle, and it really is negative in our minds. It creates this expectation that I must not be able to homeschool or do Montessori or bring joy to my children's world or whatever if I can't make it look like that, right? And I get especially frustrated knowing myself, and I'm sure I'm the only one out there, when I see spick and span, spotless houses without a crumb on the floor, and every wall is pristine and painted and fresh. And I'm like, I am a failure. Look at that. That's like they live in a crate and barrel or something. And it really does a number on us. But we are here to tell you, and ourselves, as I just was admitting, that is not reality. That those are not expectations that are fair to live with. Now, the pressure is real, but that sense of obligation or expectation, we need to delete that.
Yeah, that actually surprised me when you said that. I didn't know that you felt that way. But I am remembering your mother is like a fantastic interior decorator. It is her thing, and this is like the environment you grew up in. Was
Well,
like
she does not have an Instagram house.
She doesn't have an Instagram house, but it is a perfectly clean, highly curated home environment.
Well, I want to be real clear here. That my mother's house looks like. I love my home where I grew up. It is filled to the gills with every. I mean, I'm a country boy, and it's country aesthetic. So it is filled to the gill. There's a room filled with only rooster things.
That's true.
Pictures of roosters, rooster statues, little rooster icons, rooster. There's, you have a wall. If you live in a house that has a wall of crosses, you know what I'm talking about, friends, and you're probably from the South.
Probably. But also, this was your mother's hobby. Every time we would go to her house, another room would be completely redecorated and redone with entirely new everything, furniture and paint and wallpaper and the whole thing. It was always
an expectation,
It was always a surprise.
That's right.
It does set an expectation, and I think modern parents are really struggling to compete with each other. I mean, I don't know who your mother was, if she was doing it just for her own beautiful spirit. Maybe.
She loved it.
But also maybe she had friends who also probably decorated their homes.
True.
But her world of me and my friends are all kind of trying to one-up each other was really small.
Yeah, and then she knew these people or knows them.
I just meant that group was very tiny. And the Montessori influencer group is wildly vast. And so we are
real.
So we're trying to compare ourselves to people that live very far away from us, whom we've never met, who probably we would never have met in real life. If we do get to be friends with them, maybe we will meet someday, and that's awesome. But by far and large, it takes it to another level as opposed to just looking through beautiful pictures in a magazine. You're like, but these are magazine photos, and it feels a little more real to us on social media.
Yeah, because exactly. I think too, and I want to just underscore this, that it's that real connection that's so vital. And we're talking mostly, most of our members here, our audience is they're homeschoolers, and we get that question a lot. Well, aren't your kids going to be weird? Aren't they going to be alone? And the answer is that's true for anybody that doesn't have human connection. Homeschooling does not require that. Modern society especially seems to want us to live in our own little bubbles way, but that's not a healthy way to exist. And so your example is a good one. Yeah, my mother had rivals, frenemies or whatever, where they would outdo it, but they were also friends and they knew each other. And you also knew that they had that closet at the back that was stuffed to the gills with other stuff. And you weren't allowed to open that door because it would explode into a melange of seasonal decorations. But on social media, we don't get that.
We actually don't see those closets. I think
a
lot of, in fact, I know that a lot of Montessori influencers do get, because they work with brands, they do get a very big influx of toys to review and such. And it's a job. So, they're working to review things, and you really need to have experience with them in order to give a good review. So there's validity in that. But we generally don't see the big closet full of stuff, that they're trying to manage behind the scenes, behind that curated space, as beautiful as it is.
So let's talk about why this is important. I mean, this isn't just a diatribe against the internet, that pesky internet. It's because it actually can harm our ability to embrace what's really beautiful. Because what doesn't come through in Instagram reels, we know because we've tried to make them, you've been doing it for many, many years. You once were a legit influencer. Yes, you were. Back before the word even existed, you had a gigantic Facebook group, right?
Yes, but I was using it for teaching.
I know, I'm not, this is not, I came here to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
I refuse to work with brands. Which maybe was foolish, in retrospect.
Well,
but
again, but the point is that conveying a philosophy, like conveying a theory, conveying a life, like a more abstract, just it's much harder to convey. And you can, of course, do that. There are lots of great films and shows and artworks and so forth that do it, but they tend to take a lot of time. And social media is designed to be very, 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 very short. Like it keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now we're down to just, what is it, 2 seconds or something? Like the average person spends like 1.5 to 2 seconds looking at something before moving on to the next in the feed. Like it's just incredibly rapid fire. And you're not going to be able to convey a subtle theoretical concept, which actually is what is most important in 1.5 seconds. What can you convey? You can convey a flashy image or something big or a big sound, like a big flashing thing. And so we tend to promote things that are
or some ASMR.
Yeah, that's right. You take 1 second and you know already that this is going to be right. We're so sophisticated. Many of us are now so sophisticated in our social media use that we know immediately what we're going to get the minute we see the first frame. We're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a blah. This is going to be an ASMR clip. This is going to be a whatever, a clip from a TV show. This is going to be a whatever, this or that, right? And we know from the vibe whether we want to keep scrolling or not. And theory, philosophy, those sorts of things, they don't convey well through that media. That's just super hard. You actually have to take time, be self-reflective. And so I think what it does, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, and it's not just specific about Montessori, it's about all of this, is that it just starts to create an impression. It's like the dog that runs the fence, right? Eventually you get a little trail that leads from your back door to where the fence starts, where your dog, every dog does this. They run out, they run the same path. There's an actual path in your grass if you let it happen, and then they run back and forth, and then they run back. We are not that different from other of our beloved cohabitators on this earth that are not human beings, right? We fall into habits, we're trainable, we fall into this sort of these rhythms and traps. And so if we start to see again and again and again depictions of Montessori as this pristine environment with beatific children sitting neatly on rugs or carefully carrying trays, what does it tell us? It tells us we can't do it, we're not good enough, we have to spend more money, we have to have a certain kind of wealth in order to achieve it, we have to be perfect, we have to have a perfectly organized world or room, we have to have a space that's big enough. I mean, it becomes we are trained to do that, and it feeds into our existing, our already very, very close insecurities about homeschooling and parenting in general. So we all are insecure about being parents. It's just a part of parenting. We're already all insecure to some degree about homeschooling. Are we doing it right? Because we're taking it so seriously. We're often very insecure about something like Montessori because we know it's complicated. So you've got all of these natural insecurities that are normal. And then you're adding to this insane social pressure, this Pavlovian bell that's ringing saying it's got to look like this, it's got to do this, it's got to do this. And it becomes a collapsing kind of star. And then what happens? You give up. You don't have to do that. The reality is that Montessori existed long before those perfect images. In fact, it grew out of an environment that had almost nothing. And the things that they were given, the toys and things that Maria was given by the wealthy patrons, the children rejected. They didn't even want the stuff. That is the roots of Montessori. It has nothing to do with what we tend to see today.
Yeah.
And that's because the heart of Montessori is in that philosophy. Once we can embrace that philosophy, once we can really understand that, we can begin to see, where can you do Montessori? Anywhere and everywhere. We have people in our community that are doing it in RVs, people that are doing it on sailboats, people that are living with extended family, people that live in multiple locations because they live overseas. Sometimes they're in Malaysia and sometimes they're in India and they travel back and forth. they make it work because they know they've learned and they have embraced, not to silence the fears, because the fear of inadequacy is a normal thing, but have embraced that Montessori is more than the stuff.
When you said 1.5 seconds, I was thinking, I read recently that our general attention span, due to our interactions online, like our long attention span, has decreased down from like when the internet first kind of came up and we were all starting to read blogs. Our attention spans for focus was about 32 seconds for reading an article, and now it's 8 seconds.
Yeah,
So,
is that right?
yeah. Yeah. So we are, through our use of social media for some good and obviously some ill, training our brains to have reduced amounts of focus and concentration time. And I just think this is interesting in the context of this conversation, because in Montessori, what we actually are trying to get children to do is to focus for longer periods of time. And it's almost as though we're causing like a developmental regression within our own brains. You know, toddlers don't focus for very long. You've got your 1.5-year-old who's flitting from thing to thing to thing to thing. And they do this on purpose developmentally because they're trying to take in as much as possible. And this is part of what we call the absorbent mind. And so if you do ascribe to the Montessori pedagogy, you will realize that the concept of the absorbent mind is actually really, really important. And so children who are just, as soon as they're born, they're just absorbing everything around them. And part of this developmental stage is very short periods of concentration. And we actually don't want our babies or our young toddlers to have long periods of concentration because it works against them. They're supposed to notice the butterfly flying in the sky. They're supposed to get distracted when you're emptying the dishwasher, or to be able to hear daddy's voice when he's coming up the stairs, or I don't know, like our kids could sense and hear you when they were like toddlers, when you had arrived home much faster than I could. You know, they would, I know you didn't witness this, but they would run to the window, almost like as your car was like turning into our driveway, you know, and I would be ignoring it because it just wouldn't even hear the cars passing.
I remember
But they would turn into the driveway, and they would, when they were toddlers, they would race to the window and say, "Daddy's home." And I would be like, "What? No, he's not. Or is he? Or what time is it? Oh yeah, I guess it is time for Daddy to be home." And then I would go out and I would look, and you'd still be in the car, like, you know, having just pulled in. But they were just so distractible that they would just hear, you know, those tiny little things.
That story, boy, it really just belonged to memory of doing that with my own father. Like, because we would get home from school before he came home from work, and I remember, like I have this memory of his car pulling up and being like really aware of the crunch of the gravel under the tires and that's fascinating.
It is interesting. It's interesting how those stories bring up our own memories too. Developmentally, what happens after this toddler stage is we do want to bring children into a deeper state of concentration. And this is a natural part of humanity. We are supposed to start like little scattered butterflies fluttering around our whole world, taking it all in, and then we're supposed to bring our concentration into a focal point and be able to focus on it long enough to learn how to practice a particular skill. And for a child, that might be as simple as like carrying a cup of liquid without spilling it. You have to concentrate for a lot longer than a minute, like a second and a half, in order to accomplish a skill like this. Otherwise, you just slosh it, right? And this is all about building that motor and muscle control. So you can see, like, when you actually look at the development of the child, even though we believe that a prepared environment filled with things that will nourish children, that are healthy for them, that give them opportunities for learning is a great thing, and that we should care about our aesthetics, because we all have this human instinct to love beautiful things. And Maria Montessori was coming from a situation where children were living in kind of trashy environment that was uncared for, and she wanted to create a beautiful space for the children to love. And so she was all about like, let's plant beautiful flowers for them, to take in the beauty, because their surroundings were so
But she was so
dreary.
exacting with the craftspeople who were making the prototypical materials, the prototypes of the materials.
That is true.
Because she demanded that they be artfully made.
Yes, and
precise.
because she felt like children deserved it.
Yeah.
That they were deserving, just as deserving as. So she thought, what if we were to create materials that were just as fine and beautiful as the finest furniture that's ever been made for upper class families in Europe? If you could think about the most detailed, most beautiful wooden handmade things they were making for adults. She was like, let's make beautiful things for children.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful vision that is. And so it's really shocking sometimes to see, I think, our fixation on these same materials that she so lovingly put attention and time into making as beautiful as possible, being co-opted by companies who are shipping them off and making them in the cheapest, most loosest, casual way possible. Like that, even though like now we've got pink towers that are accessible, part of my heart is like, would it have been better to just like find a stick and polish it, lovingly, and then give it to our child? Is it better to have the cheap pink tower that was kind of carelessly made, or does that really matter? I feel conflicted about it. And there are also obviously great Montessori materials makers and woodsmiths who are very meticulously making beautiful materials for children. And that's all to be valued, So, but I think that we, in our quest for more and abundance and this quest for perfection, we find ourselves becoming real consumerists in the Montessori community. So some of the ways that you can counteract this yourself is that you can personally put more emphasis on the pedagogy than you do on the aesthetics. And it's not that aesthetics aren't important. I mean, definitely get your little, it doesn't cost money to do this. Like, get some bud vases or little jars that you save from yogurt or jelly, and have your child collect some little wildflowers and put them in your window. Beautify your space. Definitely like dust and care for the things that you own. But you don't have to have like this miraculous environment that's full of every single Montessori toy and material, that is available to you. Children just don't need it. What they do need is for you to believe in the power of the absorbent mind and to understand their stage of development. They also need you to understand the concept of control of error, that the idea in Montessori that children can learn from their own mistakes and correct them. And we actually incorporate both of these ideals into our materials.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, with our control of error, one of the ways that when we design our materials, if they're, let's say, a classifying card, is we'll often put a symbol of some sort on the back of the card so that you can, let's say, categorize them. Like, let's categorize vertebrates versus invertebrates. And then on the back, maybe there's a picture of a bone versus a picture of no bone or something like that. And the child can turn that over and see if they've actually categorized them correctly. So it's built into the materials. Now, there are other obvious ways that you do control of error. Like, there are ways in the materials, like the pink tower, it's only stacks really steadily in one way. There's like an inherent control of error for that too. But, to your point, like, the concept of control of error is not exclusive to a very specific kind of machine-made material, even handmade. Like, what you're looking to do when you design materials, like what we try to do and you would do yourself when you're making your classroom environment, is you want to think, can the child learn from his errors? can my child try this and then test and check for himself whether he got it right and then correct, because that is where the learning is happening. The analysis of how I did, the correction of it as necessary, and then the redoing of it the correct way. That is what causes the learning. So the control of error is really important. It goes in terms of like the absorbent mind. How do you feel like we try to bring that concept to life in our work?
The absorbent mind? Well, we're really intentional about the children's stages of development when actually writing the lessons and scripting them out when we write for Constellation. I think it's also inherent just in the way we teach the Montessori method in our primary foundations courses. Learning that concept helps parents to apply it. You know, when we conceived of the idea of incorporating thematic learning into the foundational approach in Montessori, this was actually something that was kind of unique in the Montessori community. I had seen themes done before, but they were they were done in more of a traditional schoolish sense, you know, whereas like the theme might be Halloween and the Montessori teacher might swap out all the trays for orange and black trays, you know, and put spiders in for sorting and counting. And those, you know, it's not that there's anything wrong with having fun in your environment.
Bringing
and
out little pumpkins instead of
totally,
something
yeah.
else to count.
But that was really kind of as far as I was really seeing it. Other than that, it seemed very traditional. And so we realized that part of understanding that children have this absorbent mind means that no topic is off limit for children at any age. And so we kind of shifted our approach to help parents tap into this at home by introducing a myriad of topics and you know, vocabulary along the way to their children of any age. You know,
with the knowledge that the child will take in what they can. We've talked about this before, like the child is like a cup. So you introduce a complicated concept and the child is not quite ready for it, it's not going to harm them. They'll just absorb what they can of the topic. So you're trying to teach, what do we do? This month we're doing apples.
That's right.
And so we're doing the history of apples, where they came out of, Kazakhstan, right?
Yeah.
And so the earliest apples are at Kazakhstan, and then over time they spread, and you could talk about the Silk Road and all sorts of concepts that a very young child is not going to understand or really care about. It doesn't mean you wouldn't give them that lesson.
That's right. This actually just came up in our community. One of our parents was teaching about, we were doing the apple polishing work, which is a Montessori practical life work, but we were using it to also teach some vocabulary words that you might never have thought of to teach your child, like the word cuticular wax.
Oh, yeah.
Which is actually what the natural wax on an apple is scientifically called. And it's a very cool word because, you know, it's basically, the root is like cuticle, right?
Yes.
It's like
same as the cuticle.
Same as the cuticle. And so like you can think of like the cuticle is kind of protecting your finger and, you know, binding it to your fingernail. The cuticular wax is like part of the skin of the apple. And so this parent was saying, like, you know, I'm teaching her about the cuticular wax, but how much is she really taking in? You know, like it's kind of a weird and foreign concept, and here I am, but I'm doing it. I'm, you know, teaching my older child at the same time, but like we're introducing things like cuticular wax. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my 2-year-old? You know, because it's not something you would see anywhere else.
No.
But because we believe in the power of the absorbent mind, we encourage our members to use words like cuticular wax. And what I told her last night in our primary coaching session was like, you might not see the benefits of introducing this cuticular wax vocabulary word until like a year or 2 later, because your young child is still hearing and absorbing and, you know, taking things in, and it's going to be a while before you start to see that expression come out. But you never know when like what you've been learning about the cuticular wax of the apple is going to just suddenly pop out of your child. when they turn 4 and
Yeah.
they're like handling the wax and like this cool vocabulary where it's wedged its way into their brain. Like it does happen. I remember the story that parents were telling about it happening with jellyfish. Is it jellyfish that's a member of Nigeria?
Yeah,
or,
I believe so.
So so our some of our members were like, we studied jellyfish like 2 years ago, but my child can still remember the I don't know, whatever the umbrella part of the jellyfish is, and they were naming it like 2 years later. It still stuck with them, even though
They
were
remember
very
it better
little.
than we do.
They do, yeah, they do, so much better.
But
Yes.
that's actually the way it's supposed to be too.
I'm going to go over a couple other things that we do in Montessori. We also isolate concepts for our children.
Yeah.
This is a very important part of the pedagogy that you can start implementing right away, is really looking for what's the point of this activity right here, and how can we remove any obstacles in the way of the actual skill building in it so that our children can learn how to focus and concentrate for longer periods on it. And some of the Montessori toys that I'm seeing online do not follow this principle, and it's one of my Montessori triggers. Is when I see these, I'm like, it's too busy. Like we're mixing colors and shapes, and we've got little buttons on something, and we've got little twirly things on it, and there's texture, and it makes a noise, and like I think that in some philosophies, toy companies just kind of think like the more the better. We'll just keep adding extra sensory
It's like
features
the
to it.
Homer, the car, the Homer. Do you remember the Homer?
No.
I'm old. What are you gonna say?
Is it from The Simpsons?
There's a classic Simpsons episode where Homer designs a car and it's got like all the craziest.
all the buttons and features.
It's called the Homer.
I mean, hello Tesla. Right? But
Fair.
But yeah, like this happens. So something we can do as Montessori parents is say, hey, a Montessori principle is about isolating concepts. We want to isolate the concepts in as much as possible so that our children can actually focus.
Yeah.
And so we can look at our environment. We can look at Montessori toys online and say, hey, this one follows that principle, but this one doesn't. This one does a pretty good job. This one distracts us from the actual purpose. And it's actually pretty easy to see once you learn this principle and you practice it a little bit. And then finally, we also follow the child in this in a real way. Like you can have a beautiful home environment and follow your child. You can have a really messy home environment where you are living with grandma or on your sailboat or in your RV, or maybe you spend most of your time outside in your backyard and you don't have that perfectly curated space, but you can also follow your child, and where their interest leads, you literally follow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So to kind of tie that back, these 4 principles and others within Montessori are where Montessori lives, right? We believe that the child's mind is absorbent. We're going to isolate qualities. We're going to focus in on control of error. And we're going to follow them as they develop through. None of that comes through really easily in a little YouTube short or a TikTok or an Instagram post or something.
Yeah.
And so when
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
I have learned that my Instagram reels actually don't get any traction unless they're about under 30 seconds long. And I struggle with this because like I want to teach a whole concept and I just can't do it in 30 seconds. Like
we've run A/B tests on
so
this.
hard, yeah. And
we'll do the 20-second version and the 1-minute version. The 1-minute version never performs in the same way.
Yeah. So it is very, very difficult to learn an immense amount in such a very, very short amount of time.
You can't.
Or concentrate. Yeah, you just can't do it.
And so this goes back to the idea of like setting the expectations. It's normal to be anxious about our children. Like no, I don't think there ever comes a point, I don't know, you'll have to ask me again in 30 years, but based on my own, relationship with my own mother, you never stop worrying about your kids.
Yeah.
It's just normal. So of course you worry about them as a parent when they're little. Mm-hmm. It's normal to worry about their education. Like that's that's a part of worrying about them as kids, and it's also separate. We know it's important. We value education as a society. We're taking that responsibility on if we're homeschooling, or even if we're not homeschooling. Even if we have our kids in a traditional school, you have to be hyper involved. Like, there's no question about it. Successful kids in public school have highly involved parents. It's just like the connection is 100% clear. It's normal to be worried. It's normal to worry about your children and their success. It's normal to worry if you are making mistakes. Like, it's normal to be anxious about your choices. These are all normal things. Where we go astray is when we allow the impulses of our modern society, which is really oriented toward this sort of go material, short burst world, to feed that beast. And then it becomes a limiter for us. The solution to that isn't more, it's actually less of that and a focus on what really matters. Those philosophical concepts. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You don't have to have a perfect house. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You don't have to not worry about those things. You just have to believe in some core principles, and Montessori ties them up so well. Now, there are things you can do today while you're learning that philosophy, because it's a lifelong process. We're still learning it. There are things that you can do today that will get you rolling and can help you feel empowered, right? So one of the things you can do is you can go into your kitchen drawer or your closet, maybe not that closet that's got all that seasonal decorations.
Christmas decor, no. Not that closet.
But maybe somewhere. It gets some everyday objects out that reinforce these principles. So it could be kitchen tools, right? There are lots and lots of lessons and things that relate to using tools. So an example would be measuring cups, right? Measuring cups tend to stack, right? One inside the other. That's control of error, right? That shows you that there's an order to them naturally. It's not designed to be control of error. It just is control of error. The big one won't fit in a smaller one.
That's right.
Right? They also are teaching this principle of quantity, right? It's the amount that fits in the smaller one will fit into the bigger one, just like the smaller cup will fit into the bigger one. You probably have a set of measuring cups in a drawer somewhere. That is an everyday tool that fits a lot of the kinds of meets many of those qualities we talked about. They don't make beautiful pictures on Instagram. You're probably not going to do a super captivating reel about it. They just work. And so what's another one?
Well, my favorite, of course, is the egg beater.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have one I recommend. So DM me or email me if you want a recommendation for an egg beater you will love and your child will love.
What is it about it that you like so much? I know you do love an egg beater.
I love them. I don't know. It's like there's, I think they really are great for concentration.
Yes.
There's a single motion and it's just like.
Yeah, they're very satisfying.
So satisfying.
And
oh
the
my
way
gosh.
that the whisks feed into
whisks
each other.
Just like,
and if you get the kind that has where you can see the gears turn, that is really fun.
I know. I just love it. And I also love what it does. I love how it turns something that's like placid and, of one substance and it like infuses it with bubbles and...
Yeah. Blends it all
together. I don't know. It just like scientifically, it's like, yes, I can take even just a tub of water and put a drop of soap in it and then just like start egg beating and then just like bubbles start to happen. And I still love it. And it maybe I'll probably never stop loving
No, but I love it. That's great. So here's this gives me some ideas. So there's some practical everyday things you probably already have. A bowl, some water, and some vegetable oil or some other kind of olive oil, and maybe an egg beater. Put them together, spin it up. You'll see the oil disperse into the water, and then you'll see it coalesce back because oil and water don't mix.
Yep.
That is teaching a scientific principle. It's super satisfying. It's probably stuff you already have. It's legit science, and it goes with those principles of Montessori, and it doesn't cost you anything other than what you probably already have at your home. Don't have an egg beater, you can do the same thing with a spoon or a fork or something. Yeah. The egg beater is super satisfying.
But if there was something to invest in, It would be that $10 egg beater.
Yes.
Or maybe it's more now. I don't know.
Whatever it
Used to be $10.
Okay, here's another one.
Worthy.
You don't have to have a mansion, for sure. Make a space somewhere, wherever it is, big or small, that can be for your child's things. It can be a room, nice. It could be a cubby under the stairs that they go and read in or that you decorate. It could be a basket that's outside of the shared bedroom. It could be a hook where they hang a backpack and they put things inside. You're wanting to prepare some kind of a space that fits to your environment. You're giving a dedicated place for the learning to happen. You're setting a mark. Now, again, you'll see lots and lots of beautiful depictions, but I want to be super clear. A basket on the floor filled with Montessori materials or learning materials more broadly can be just as effective and perhaps sometimes more effective than a whole room. In fact, when our kids were young, we've talked about this in past episodes, our house was filled with baskets. We started with a classroom and we never used it. And so you switched, you took all that stuff and you started putting in baskets and put them around the house. The school room became the baskets in the house. It was a dedicated, prepared space.
I also want to say that when we moved into this house, we moved, when we moved, we had a just turning 7-year-old and a just turning 4-year-old. And when we moved here into this house, before our furniture, like maybe after the furniture arrived, I just remember our living room was basically bare.
Totally.
We had one small couch in it and our TV and and like lots of floor space in front of a window, no other furniture. And I remember the first thing I did, because all of our shelves, I think we had left most of our shelves behind.
Maybe it was just too expensive to move it all.
Yeah,
so
we
just,
moved everything into we crammed everything we owned into a pod, shipped it across the country, 3,000 miles across the country, whatever would fit. And so we gave away most of our shelving and
a lot of stuff.
And children's stuff. And so we arrived with just the bare minimum: beds, a couch, maybe, one shelf, right? One small shelf. But the first thing I did was I found our Montessori baskets and I got out the baskets, and I don't know if you remember this, I have a picture of it, but I actually lined them up all on the floor for our kids, and I put some familiar toys inside. I had the marble run in one, and I had some wooden blocks in another. I probably had Legos in the other, and maybe I don't know, whatever
play
else.
Silks for sure.
Probably the play silks, yeah. And I remember just kind of staring at this row of baskets in front of the window, thinking, this is so beautiful, thinking this is a beautiful space. It didn't take me, I don't have, gorgeous shelves set up. There's no homeschool room. They're just like these baskets sat, 5 baskets in a row in front of a window. And it was just like the most beautiful thing. And I took a photo of it just so I could remember this moment. Oh, there goes my little timer.
The other thing that did is it gave a sense of normalcy to the kids after a very
That's what I
traumatic.
wanted to say.
Moving is hard. Even though they were little, it was really tough. It was the second major move we had made in just a few years as well.
Yeah. So, you can find, yes, and that's definitely important. But in the scale of thinking about the influencer Montessori classroom versus, a person who's not curating their environment in a Montessori classroom way.
Say a regular human.
No, I have seen our members' homes, and some of them have worked really hard on their prepared
there are
environments,
some really
and they're so beautiful. Yes, so
it doesn't.
It's not to downplay that.
Let me underscore that because I've been hard on this. I want to say that for sure, it's not an either or.
Yes,
you can believe, know, exude the philosophy, and also have that curated home environment. Like, it's not an either or. It just, I think my emphasis is more on like
there are many ways.
There are many,
yeah. There are many ways. And my encouragement to you is not to try to reduplicate what someone else has done in their room or in their classroom. And I think we often see this online, people saying, oh, where'd you get that? I remember, in my work online, it was really hard for me personally because people would be constantly asking, like, where'd you buy that? Where'd you buy that? Where'd you buy that? And what I want to say was like, I don't know, like this thing was gifted to me. I found this thing in a dollar store, I picked this thing off the side of the road. Like, we were very, very scrappy people, and on purpose, because we tend not to be super materialistic. But there is this kind of drive to want to reduplicate someone else's space. And my encouragement to you is that, even if you have some cute little toddler tables, and I have one literally right here within, my almost within arm's distance from me right now that I love and adore, like you can have the cute tables and the shelves and like all the things, but try to be thinking about your space in terms of like, what's beautiful to you? Finding beauty in what you already have rather than trying to covet what someone else is doing in their own home. It's hard.
Yeah, and that ties to actually one of the other rules that we might give you to help you kind of get going now, and that is before you buy, observe. So don't copy the Instagrammer or even your friend. Like, start with the observation of your child. See where your child is gravitating and their readiness, and then start to look for the materials that might enrich that experience. So if you're going to watch and copy anyone, it should be your child. Right? So and from that will come variation, like, because no two children are the same, and so you will naturally begin to develop your own style. A couple other things before we wrap up here. As Aubrey was just mentioning, we were scrappy, and so we really love to propose that as a way of life as well. To each their own, but a DIY approach can be really great for a lot of reasons. It's economical, it's better for the environment, it allows you to experiment with lower risk. So you think your child is interested or ready for something, and you invest in it, and you DIY it with something simple like a paper-based or something you crafted or a secondhand material, and then it turns out not to work, your investment is very, very small.
That's a really good point. We don't talk about that enough, I think.
Yeah. And so you're just like, because then I think it creates this expectation of like failure and losing gratification, or what am I doing?
Or like, I just paid $130 for these beautiful materials to come to my house, and I opened them up and my kid didn't do anything with them. What do I do now? Like, how do I make them play with them?
Yeah, it's like, so who's to blame here? Is it me or them? Or like, so yeah, so don't put yourself in that situation. The other one that I want to emphasize that goes with it, it's actually the last one, is to be a curious person. It doesn't cost anything. This goes with what we've talked about many times before, which is you do not have to know the answer to everything to be the teacher. In fact, to model the problem-solving technique is important. It is a healthy way of showing. In fact, it's vital to showing a child how you go about solving problems. So be curious about the world. Show interest in what's happening. Think about how you might use everyday objects or found objects or things that you find at a thrift store, or repurposed things that were gifted to you, but you didn't really need it for that, but you could turn it into something else. Demonstrating that curiosity through your everyday life will create a model for your child. And it doesn't cost anything other than your willingness to be a little foolish sometimes. It happens.
Yeah, I want to give an example of something that, an example of the scrappiness from our own community. This event actually went a little bit viral, in our own little Mighty Networks. And by viral, I mean like several people got really interested, and it's still happening occasionally. But essentially, one of our parents in our community was like, you know what would really be an enhancement in our home? 1,000 cubes with the golden beads. But then she looked online and realized the cost of 1,000 cubes is actually kind of a lot. And she was like, but we want to use 1,000 cubes and like really do a whole lot and make a huge quantity with them.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? And she kind of debated, like, I guess I could make these out of beads, and that's one option, but it would take a long time to make so many. And her child was really interested in using a large quantity of 1,000 cubes. At that moment, yeah. And she was like, I don't want to invest all this money. It would take a lot of money to buy this many. And so she made them out of paper.
Yeah.
And
she folded together the cubes or something?
Yeah. So she took one of our printables where we have just, a 2D version of a 1,000 cube. And then she kind of like photocopied it or kind of, positioned it on the paper so that she could cut out a cube to fold together into a cube.
That's great.
I know. And then and she made a whole bunch of them with her kid, and then they had the most glorious time with them. They like set them all out and counted them, and it was like an enormous quantity of golden beads, just like her child had imagined. I know our oldest would have loved this. He was always wanting to play with bigger and bigger and bigger numbers.
What an amazing story.
And so then they, these cubes that they made, like, filled their living room, and they made just like all kinds of wonderful amounts, numbers with them and quantities with them. And then it kind of became a thing for a little while in our community, and other parents were like, wow, this seems really cool. How did you do that? I want to do that too. And so we kind of had a little rush of 1,000 cube making going on in the crafty section of our community. I know, it's so fun. But a great example of like, is the hands-on 1,000 cube great for kids? Coming from a quality Montessori company, yes, it's a great material.
So cool when you have a real one.
They're really cool. You can feel the weight of them. My personal preference is for the golden beads to be made out of glass, because I really just love the sensory feel of it, and the weight of it feels so good, better than plastic. But do you have to have it in order for your children to really enjoy, using them for math and understanding quantity? Of course not.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a counterfactual. We could never know. I doubt that the purchased versions would have satisfied as much. There's, I think we're starting to come back around as a society, honestly. Like, I could have bought those 1,000 cubes and it would have cost $1,000 or something, but it actually was more fun and satisfying for me and my children, or my son or daughter, whomever, to make them ourselves and just go through this process. This is curiosity. This is just being invested and being like, yeah, this is fun.
Yep.
And they were more real than anything you could have bought.
That's right.
Because they were theirs. And don't overlook that. Like, to your child, it's already perfect. They don't look at social media and get FOMO. They don't have that concept.
No.
They love you, and they love their home, and they love the things that you bring. And it's just a magical, magical thing. And that always can carry you through.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so so you don't need to look like an influencer, friends, to make Montessori homeschooling work. You and what you have in your child are already enough. And if you want more ideas, please reach out to us. Yep. We are brimming full of ideas about how to make Montessori work for your own home.
Yeah, whatever your situation is. We probably worked with folks like that before, and or have some thoughts otherwise.
That's right. And we also have inside our member site step-by-step instructions for you. So joining Child of the Redwoods, you don't just get some fun themes, and we have lots of those to go around, but you also get a full set of foundational lessons.
That's every lesson you'll need for your child from ages 2 to 9.
Yeah, so a large age group, and we have a really fantastic community as well, especially I see some members of our DIY community out there.
Yes, Ted Lee's as. I love the theme. Sometimes I don't think it's resonating until months later, and then Theo says, hey, look, it's a Cumulonimbus cloud. Cumulonimbus cloud. It's like a Harry Potter spell. Yeah, exactly. I love those stories.
Yeah.
Kids they're amazing. Children are amazing.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Please come visit us at childoftheredwoods.com
Yep.
to learn more about what we do.
And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Take care,
Bye.
friends.